Hey, Gaybros.
Hey, Gaybros Jose.
Where are we today?
This is a very, very special episode for Gaybros Go to Dive Bars to talk about cinema. It's our 100th episode. We wanted to do something special, so we came to Golden Gate Park. Today is probably the best weather we've had this year, I would say.
I would say that it's a bit windy, but it has been nice.
So our idea was to come and do this podcast from a boat in a lake.
Yeah.
And then the boat sold out, and so now we're just by the lake.
Yeah, we're close. We're close to it. You can almost, when you actually listen to this, you may actually even feel like the humidity of the lake.
Yeah, I mean, we're basically there.
Yeah,
it's fine.
yeah. Just imagine that we're in a boat right now. But yeah, the idea was like just several movies that we watched. One of them that we like, and another one that we didn't like at all. They ended up with a sequence of friends going boating. So our idea was exactly like Gaybros go boating, but we failed.
Jose's greatest regret is that we started our podcast after we saw Celine Dion goes boating, which I don't even know the real name of that film at this point.
Oh my God,
Celine
I forget.
And
Julie?
Celine and
Julie,
yeah. Something like that.
Yeah.
So I'll make this commitment to you before episode 200.
We will watch it.
Do it.
We will talk about Celine Dion goes boating while we go boating. Okay, that's so meta. But yeah, in any case, as we decided last week, what did we watch?
This was your pick, and you were very kind. You gave me several films to choose from. We really wanted to find a classic that neither one of us had seen, but between the two of us, we've covered a lot of cinema ground.
Yeah.
So ultimately, we picked one that Jose has seen 3 or 4 times. I had not. It's the 1927 masterpiece. I would argue that's...
Yeah, sure. Yeah, you
now.
Can say it, yeah.
Fritz Lang's Metropolis, the silent film about a city with divided classes.
Sure. So, as this was my pick, I should say why did I pick it.
Yes.
I gave you like multiple choices, but this was like one of the first movies that we added to the to-watch list, and we always skip it because, as it's a silent movie, and especially like so early, it may feel a bit of a, I wouldn't say chore, but I would say that it requires an investment, especially because it's more than 2 hours.
It's 2 hours and 25 minutes.
Yeah, so it was delayed multiple times, but I wanted to watch, like, for the episode 100, if we're not going to be like watching Celine Dion goes boating, watching a classic, watching something that is like everyone respects as a classic,
And you like it. You also like sci-fi.
Yep.
You like Fritz Lang.
Yep.
You like German expressionist film.
Oh, yeah.
Remind us how you felt about M.
I really like it. I think there is a bit, I don't want to give too much away before you do the summary, but I feel like both movies share an idea of a proto-genre kind of thing about, okay, this is not exactly what we will understand sci-fi right now, but you have like some of the elements that they go like police, and you can just look into sci-fi in the 30s, 40s, 50s, and you see it's like this kept evolving until we got where we are right now. So it's an interesting exercise, and I like it. I think that they have like some scenes that they are really disturbing. The cinematography is like pretty well made. You remember what did I get to it? Oh, you have it?
We're talking about M, right?
M,
Sorry,
yeah.
I was pulling up an IMDb.
No,
I
it's
can
fine.
pull it up because this film reminded me a lot of M, but I was pleasantly surprised by the futuristic, what we would call sci-fi, although there was
more or less
fictional science, but it definitely played like a minor part in my opinion.
Well, the thing is, something that I was thinking about watching this movie is that the sci-fi as a genre is interesting because it's as futuristic or it's as congruent as it can be with our reality. You never go like completely crazy, Is that there is always some kind of grounding into our reality right now. And for them, is that just think on the 20s, it's still like, what is the worker reality? So it was a bit more about classes, and a bit more about like just growing city, about like where it is going to be like lead us to.
I would agree, and it's also obviously important to understand that this is Germany in 1927.
Oh, yep.
We understand where it
wars.
There's a lot of communism, socialism, Nazis coming ahead. So considering that kind of, foundation for the film, it's interesting.
Yeah.
And by the way, you gave M an 8,
Yep.
and I gave it a 7.
Yep. I still stand by that. I still think I remember like many of the scenes there like just amazingly well made for just making it disturbing. And there is a couple of parallels now that you mentioned it about like the mob at the end of the petty homeless criminals, you know, that they are like just trying to hunt the murder down, and hear how the group of workers burn the witch. But yeah, in any case, just go for it. What is this movie about? Sorry, what happens in this movie?
Okay, so keep me honest, because this is a 2.5-hour film.
Yeah.
Even though it's silent, there's a lot. But essentially, we're introduced to Freder. Freder is what I would call, like, he's the son of a billionaire. He's the son of a titan of industry.
Yeah.
And he spends his day in pleasure gardens, and beautiful women entertain him. And then one day, in his pleasure garden, this woman, Maria, which a little on the nose, but thank you. The people who run the city live underneath it. It's literally underground.
Well, it's not the people that they rule the city; it's the people that they work.
Yeah, I'm saying the people who run it in terms of
they
like
run.
who
Okay.
make the city.
Yeah.
The lower class literally live underground, and they make this beautiful city up top for basically the 1%.
Yeah.
So he's in his pleasure garden, being pleasured, and having a good time with his partner,
concubines,
whatever. Yeah. And then this woman Maria comes up from the blue collar levels with a ton of children, so that the children can see
The Horribles.
these are your brothers. That's what she says.
Yeah.
And Freder, he's, would you say captivated? He's like,
He's
what is
shocked.
going on?
Yeah.
And he follows her down into the lower levels, and he sees all of these workers working, and he sees all the machines that have the city running. And while he's down there, he witnesses an explosion of one of the machines. Many people die.
Yeah.
But he also has a hallucination that the machines are a temple to a biblical god.
Yep.
That's like a pagan god, which I enjoyed that scene very much.
Yep.
And he goes up. After seeing what he sees, he brings some information to his father, who is pretty heartless, and he's like, no, we have to bring these two classes together.
Yep. But the father doesn't.
The father's not into it. He's
no.
like, it's like Elon Musk. He's like, no, you got to give the Amazon workers some more money. He's like, no thanks. I'm going to send a Tesla.
Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos are not the same person.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Just say.
You're right.
Just know your deities.
And so the father gets upset. He doesn't trust his son for the first time. He has him tracked, and then the father ends up going to see this like weird.
By the way, they actually fire. Is that the point that they fire
father's
the
assistant?
consulate? Yeah, whatever. Yeah, like the assistant. And it's like I wanted to talk about that guy and the interactions with the main character, because they are like very, I don't know, like undertones of gay. Horror.
No, they were not undertones.
Because
They were
like, yeah, how close they are to each other, how they look at each other. Is like, look, this is even like more sensual than your relationship with Maria, and you kiss her.
They're constantly in full body embraces, constantly like inches away. And Freder's father sends this assistant down. He fires him, so he has to go down and work in the machines. And Freder saves him. He's like, no, just go stay at my place. Just hang out.
Yeah.
So the father goes to this inventor, Rotog. I don't remember.
I don't remember his name.
And he's like, we have to get this, what seems to be a rebellion coming from the workers.
Yeah.
He's like, we have to solve this. There's this powerful woman named Maria. Oh god, there's so much here. So the inventor also slept with Freder's father.
No,
They were lovers.
The mother, not the father.
Yeah. Sorry, the inventor slept with Freder's mother.
He was in love with her. We don't know if he slept with her.
That's true. They had a connection.
Yeah.
So the inventor says, look, I get to keep this woman's memory, you get your son.
Well, he actually shows, I think that you missed like the point that he actually shows like a robotic woman that he's working on.
Well, I'm getting there. So then Freder's father finds out that he's working on basically a robot that it can look exactly like any
machine.
sort of so they have this robot looking exactly like Maria, like exactly, and it's kind of cool how they do it.
Yeah, well, but it's like that's like way later. It's after the intermezzo. I think. It's like at that point, it's like basically it's a robot.
You
still
don't
doesn't
see,
have anything.
You don't
any
see her as
human
Maria.
features.
You just see this android. But ultimately, they decide, let's make her look exactly like Maria, send her back down, and basically cause chaos.
Yeah.
The robot's incredibly successful. They become this nasty mob. So much so that they essentially destroy the city. They destroy the machines that kept the lower levels free of water. The lower levels get flooded. Then they're like, wait, all your kids were down there. And they think all their
we
kids
never
died.
thought it. We never thought about that.
But then the kids didn't die, and the real
because
Maria
the real
comes
Maria
back.
came back and saved all of them, and
Yeah.
then Fritz Lang also like just helps her. You actually didn't mention. What did you think of the scenes when they talk about Babel? Because one thing that I hadn't like, I didn't remember like completely is about like how religious it gets. You know,
They're quoting scriptures.
Yep.
Maria, obviously.
Yep.
There's a prophet who prophesies of a Messiah that will come and unite the classes.
Yep. And the 7 deadly sins. You know, as that is like going to be like the Robo Maria is going to be like just bringing the end of the Babel Tower, like bringing the end of the war.
Yeah, to be honest, so there was a lot of religious, a lot of nods to religion. I tried, and I don't know if it's because I'm not a religious person, I tried to take that into account as, hey, this is a product of his time, and religion was very important. This story is important, and it's not necessarily important because that it's religious. The fact she's named Maria, and there's a prophet that's going to come and save everyone. I wanted to just look at it purely as like a fable for the modern day.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's super religious.
Yeah. I like. Well, sorry. Did you finish?
I'm trying to think what else I would say about it, but essentially, yeah, he unites the classes at the end, which also made me feel weird because it's like, yeah, this might be working right now, but Hitler's coming in 10 years, so...
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. It's like, wow, you guys don't know what you have ahead. But yeah.
So I think that's it for my synopsis. I was impressed at how much is there for a silent film, but I'll talk more about that.
Did you feel like it was too long?
So the answer is honestly no. Like, it kept my attention. Did I want it to be an hour and a half? Yes. But I don't know what I would cut out, honestly.
Yeah, that's like what you were saying about like a lot of stuff happens. And it's not common. Well, I mean, it's not common. I'm trying to think about other like silent films. And the thing that surprised me of this one is that characters are a bit deeper than usually they are in silent films. I'm not going to say that they are deep for nowadays standards, but I'm going to say that you have a motivation for all the characters. The scientist could be like just a mad scientist, you know, but he actually had like some kind of purpose. When they actually reveal about like, hey, we were both in love with the same woman, and she chose you, and you actually get to keep the child, and I'm still in love with that woman, and I'm just recreating her. I thought it's like, that's cool. That's cool. You know, it's 27. It's not like 2000. If you do this in the 2000s, it's like, this a bit tried at this point.
I would agree with you, but can you name another character that had that level of development?
Well, more than development, I would say like motivation. At least it's true that the other ones they feel a bit more light, because I was expecting like this assistant that he would be having like something, you know, to him about like maybe family, maybe kids or whatever. Is it? No, because he's gay, probably.
And also, in my opinion, it wasn't just subtext. These two are so clearly into each other, and I would argue that the Fredder, the actor who plays him, whether it was an affectation or not, he's a fairly effeminate man.
Yeah.
Do you think
that maybe they had like something in real life and it leaked into the movie? And they were like, sure, whatever, just keep it.
I don't know if it was real life. I also don't know if Fritz Lang was trying to be progressive and be like, here's a gay, not gay character, like so many films did in the past.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's like the main character has a crush on Maria and they make out. They kiss, no?
Well, I had a crush on a woman and I kissed in my early 20s. That doesn't mean like I wasn't gay and sleeping with men.
No, that's fair. That's fair. One thing doesn't imply the other.
He was clearly expected to behave a certain way, and he behaved that way.
Okay, that may be fair. I I don't know if it's a test or not. It's like I would just say that every single time that the two of them were on the screen together, it felt like
you could cut that tension with a knife.
you could say that. There is some interest here of some kind.
I'm trying to think if there were homoerotic undertones in M. I don't remember it, and here it's extremely obvious.
No, I don't think so. And the thing is, I haven't watched like too many silent movies. I think that I watched like a handful of them, and the thing with this one is that I feel like it's closer to what silent cinema became.
Meaning that you think it's one of the best examples when it reached the apex of its capabilities.
Yeah, but it feels like still pretty crazy, pretty experimental on some of the stuff they do. Like for example, when Robo Maria emerges in that brothel or whatever it is, and the men start just going crazy, and you see this camera that is just focusing on the eyes and the faces of everyone and just doing a kaleidoscope of craziness. That couldn't fly nowadays.
I will say that I was absolutely blown away by that scene. Absolutely. When she's dancing, and it's supposed to hypnotize
sexy.
all these people.
Yeah.
And it's kind of sexy, but also incredibly bizarre, and the way all of the editing, even what you would call special effects, I was like, this is fucking good. And then isn't it during that dance where we looked at least once or twice these statues of the 7 deadly sins, and then during this dance they come alive and they start doing weird dances, and I was like, okay, this is fucking cool. This is awesome.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing that is it's experimental. It's more not only proto genre, it's proto cinema. Is that we don't know exactly what is going to be just sticking or not, and there is no rules about this works and this doesn't. Especially for sci-fi. For sci-fi, it's what do you have Méliès before that, and he was not doing just complex stories. He was doing adventures.
So, let's not say this is a very complex story.
No, what I'm saying, okay, it's not a really complex story, but I'm going to say that is for the time that this was made, is that this is pretty impressive. I think that the other silent movies that I can remember is Nosferatu and Dr. Caligari. What is it called? The Cabinet?
The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari.
Yeah. And it's they're good movies, but I feel like in this one there is more of a try to build up some kind of wall around it. I love the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari.
I do too. I love that movie.
I think that is the first time that you see this kind of surprise motherfucker, everything was a dream. There is we have abused so much of this, this resource a long time, and we don't know that this actually comes from the 20s, from silent cinema, But this one, I had the feeling that it tries to just build up a wall. If it succeeds or not so much, that's a different story, but they try to build a different reality.
So I know it's not fair to compare talkies to silent films, but Citizen Kane came out 13 years. I think it's 41, according to IMDb.
Oh, 41, yeah.
The difference in the complexity of the storyline...
Yeah, man, but it's okay, sure.
I'm just saying, so, let me tell you, I whether or not I've mentioned this on the podcast, I've said this to you in the past, that I'm not super into operas, but when I married my husband, he is, and so we started going to the opera a lot more, and I thought, visually this is stunning. It's on a scale that's larger than life, but I found myself being so dissatisfied by the story. The story is so simplistic that is my complaint with this film, is that it's okay, there were the lower class and the upper class, and then a Jesus came and brought them all together.
And it was the mediator. It. Yeah, but I don't disagree with that. The only thing is I'm giving them not completely a pass, but it's still impressive, something for me in the 20s that is this complex. Because then it's when things start just complicated way more, is that you can add more stuff. Just think that here, only with the dialogue that you can put in the middle of the movie, is that there is not so much that you can develop. I mean, there are several minutes that you don't have a single, what do they call
intertitles.
Intertitles. There is not a single intertitle.
And I will say that there's several moments where you're to read like a physical letter written by a character to another character, and they actually did some really cool editing around that. I was blown away, and I'm trying to think of the specific scene, but I think it's Freder's father. He's reading this letter, and then it kind of like shifts, and you see a second part of the letter, and you realize you're not reading like a card. This is somebody's actual hands, and I was like, that's cool.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, but he actually needed to just get creative because of the resources that they had at that point. About okay, this is not about like all the special effects. They cannot use a computer. I was thinking when they're like just flooding the city, and I was thinking they build those buildings where the kids are coming from.
I kept thinking the same. The sets are incredible. When they have the big heart machine, and then Freder has the hallucination that is the temple to this god, and they completely change it. I was like, this is crazy impressive.
Yep.
It's crazy impressive what they were able to do. But also not just that they were inventive, but I was genuinely impressed with their ingenuity today.
Yeah.
Which is like uncommon.
Yeah. I mean, this is I know this is going to sound like partially bad, but it's like some of the stuff is like the stuff that I would expect to see from college students. About like we don't have a single dime. We have like a lot of constraints for actually just making this happen. We cannot make like the crazy stuff, and we're going to be like getting super creative about like just making the most out of the very little that we have. Now, Fritz Lang, he had like an insane amount of money for just pulling this out. When he actually had to build like those buildings, it's like, it's pretty obvious that you had support from big studios in Germany for doing this.
The sets themselves, first, like I could tell they were sets. You understand that from like just studying film. You understand how film was made. But we just watched Bram Stoker's Dracula by Francis Ford Coppola. Those sets felt more like shitty sets than this did. Like I was like, I believe that this is like a city and you're underneath the city. I was really impressed by that.
Yeah. I mean, I think, but that's actually what we're talking about with Dracula Bram Stoker, that he was trying to make a movie as if it was made in the 30s. And it's that you can see that he uses this kind of resources. It's that, look, you're going to be like giving a pass to a movie that it was made in the 20s, and they didn't have any kind of alternative. But you did, and you made everything like just to look as fake and as a set as possible.
I think I wasn't smart enough to get that.
I told you that on the recording.
I know you told me that, but I didn't get the impression that he wanted the sets to look fake.
Well, that's the reason why they also mention multiple times about like cinema is starting, it's like it's this miracle, blah blah blah, and it's like, you are like basically using the early cinema resources for just making your movie. It's like all this kind of stuff when you see like the red eyes like just floating in the air. Is that that's the kind of stuff of overlap of two different, like reels for just recording a single one. That you see it here too,
So I will say that. For whatever reason, we've been talking a lot recently about like the beginning of cinema and the first showing of the train that everyone thought they were going to die, and then all of those directors that we love, they ended up directing that documentary.
We still have to watch that.
About Lumiere and company. So I was thinking a lot about how this is the first of cinema, like this is the very first, and Fritz Lang was clearly like.
A visionary.
Is just a visionary. He was ahead of his time. I think that if in 1927, when this film came out, I went and saw it, like I would have got a hard on, and I would have run and called you on my little like rotary phone, and I would have been like, Jose, stop.
Yeah, you need
to
watch.
You have to see this movie. Stop.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that is. I was actually trying to think one of the things that is interesting about this, and like from silent movies, is especially. If you took like any subject, when you were in college, is that when they told you about like, well, the music is like it really depends. It's like you can watch like Battles in Potemkin, and there are like 15 different interpretations of that one, Or the man with the movie camera is that there is like a lot of them, and it's like each one of them they're going to be like just emphasizing like different things, and they're going to have like a different tone. And even for Metropolis, is like even now when we're checking in Canopy, there is like the version of 2 hours and a half, and there is another version from the 80s that they actually just stream it to 90 minutes, and they did like an EDM, well not really EDM, but electronic like soundtrack to it, So one of the things that I was thinking is, imagine that you're like just traveling during that time, during the 20s, and I'm pretty sure that this movie came to the States back then.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. So it's like, imagine that you are like just traveling doctor or whatever, and you're like just like, okay, I'm going to be like 1 week in this city, then I'm going to be like 1 week on the next city, whatever. And it's like, when you go to the next city and the only thing that they have is the cinema, it's like, probably that's how you're going to be like just burning your time. You know, the alternative is going to dive bars. That probably everything was a dive bar back then. Those were the times. So imagine that depending on where you go, the music is going to be different. Is that because, yeah, probably they have some scores that they were just playing along, you know, in the movie or whatever, but it's like, probably the guy that is playing there, maybe playing something different. I don't even think that it was like an album per se, you know, like a record.
So, just to go back to what you said a little bit ago, when the film came out, it was heavily criticized for a few things, including its length. Orson Welles, did you read this?
No.
When asked about the film, he just called it silly.
Wow. Okay. Okay, Orson Welles.
So, I don't know if it was specifically for the US, but after the film's original release, they cut it down to a much shorter version. I think it was 83 minutes, 90 minutes, something like that. And then the extra footage was lost. And nobody ever saw it again until, in a museum in Buenos Aires in 2008, they essentially discovered almost a 100% film. I think it's like 96% or something, right?
Yeah, the only thing that even like the warning at the beginning, it tells you that there is missing like a couple of scenes, like shorter scenes, and they actually just replacing it. And I even have the feeling that it's like it was lost, quote unquote. There's probably the quality is so bad that you can tell what is happening, but it says like, let's just remove it.
Yeah.
You know.
So coming back to what you're saying about the score, I read, and I could be wrong, that in this, like, quote-unquote complete version, it has the original score.
Oh,
Is
nice.
that true?
I have no idea.
But I understand your point that depending on how the local bands would play,
Yeah, it's going to be different.
it could completely change the nuances or, like, the impact of certain scenes. That's really interesting.
Yeah, no, I was thinking is that there was something like cool from silent cinema that is like, it's not only about I'm watching that thing happening there, but it's silent. There's nothing else. It's like, so, or they have already records, or someone needs to be playing the piano. And if someone is playing the piano, it really depends, you know, how are they performing that day. It may actually be different. Imagine that he screw up like the whole day, that he's drunk, for example, or that they actually use like a different soundtrack. Or he's like, I'm going to be like just playing for Elise the whole time for 2 hours.
Or maybe they received instructions, this is how you play the music, but the pianist
Exactly.
is like, are you fucking crazy? It should be played like this, and they have their own interpretation. It's a really interesting thing to think about the birth of an entire art form and to look at the more important films that came out of that time.
Yeah.
And how, I'm sure I've said this to you a million times, but Robert De Niro gave a Lifetime Achievement Award speech like 10 years ago, and he said something that rang true with me, that he's like, look, you know, my film may win an award this year and it may win an award next year, but ultimately the test of time, like our children will decide what's
If
good,
it's
and it
important
will
or
be that way
not.
forever. And
And how true it was with Crash.
with Crash, and also like, you know, Meet the Fockers, I'm sure.
Oh God.
But I think that this film, it didn't get the greatest reception, but the test of time has showed that there's like visionary aspects to this. It's important. Yes, the story didn't quite work for me. I would have liked more complex human emotions, more complex plot lines.
Yeah. And the two guys kissing.
I wanted those two guys to get it on, like Strangers by the Lake kind of style. I didn't go into this thinking I wouldn't like it, but I didn't have high hopes, and I enjoyed it. And there were several moments where I was completely blown away. Like, wow.
Yeah, the cinematography, there are like several points that is like, wow, you guys spent a while like just building this scene.
And also, not to compare it to Avatar, but
but I'm going to.
But in
Here we go.
Avatar, you could see almost every single shot was $1 million shot. Like, the special effects were so insane.
Yeah.
And I paid attention that every single shot had something built for it, and a lot of thoughtful design went into it. There was a lot of Bauhaus, a lot of Gothic, a lot of stuff that was inspired by the opera. Like, whoever that set designer was knew what he was doing and created, like, a visual feast, and that sounds like an obnoxious phrase, but every single shot is interesting in this film.
Yeah, no, I agree. Did you think actually, because I know that you really like this video game, but did you think of Bioshock?
I did, just because of our discussion. Because there is like an Art Deco style to a lot of it.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I did think about it a little bit. Essentially, Bioshock could be in Metropolis after the fall.
Yeah, well, sure, yeah, because even like, what was the name of the character? Jack Ryan?
Jack Ryan.
Yeah, that was like the father of Metropolis. That I chose the impossible, I chose Rapture. Is that's basically what the father is that he created a city. He created like something that is like just askew, that is broken from the beginning. But, you know, is cutting edge.
Well, now that you say that, I'm sure that Fredder's father was the inspiration for Jack.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Now it seems really obvious after you call it out.
But yeah, no, I like it. I don't know if I told you that the first time that I watched this, it was like 2009, that it was just after they restored it. They found like the copy. So it was in my college town in Coruña. Yeah, because I'm not afraid of just saying where I'm from. Yeah. So it was from Coruña. It was in Coruña, and they actually had like the symphony, the local symphony, just playing along the movie. So it was like amazing. It was like, wow, this is mind blowing. So it was like in a big screen, you know.
It actually made me interested in going to the Castor Theater when they have a live orchestra.
They do this one at the SF Symphony. I also watch it there.
They do it also at the symphony, but I don't know that they play the movie.
Yeah, they do.
Oh, they do?
Yeah, I was like multiple of them here, like I don't know, like Singing in the Rain and in Metropolis too.
They did Metropolis?
Yeah.
Wow.
Like years ago, I used to love like going to those. It's a great experience. I love it. I mean, I love the symphony, but it's like sometimes I feel like after 30 minutes, like I'm bored. You know.
Shut your mouth.
Yeah,
That's
but it's
unacceptable.
Well, but the thing is, like with a silent movie, is that you're going to be like playing all the time. You know, it's like with how do you say, with Singing in the Rain. I remember they said they were like just playing for a beat, and it's like, okay, now there is a dialogue, and it's like 10 minutes later, it's like you guys are going to be like, playing a game. But it's like with this is like, you guys have no excuse. You have to keep playing.
Yeah, so I've always avoided those sorts of performances in the past for the same reasons. Like, well, first off, they don't often play films that I'm interested in, but it doesn't. They don't often play films where I'm like, that had an amazing score. I want to hear that live. But now seeing how it worked with Metropolis, with the music and the visuals, I would definitely be interested in it. Like, if the SF Symphony were to do Metropolis next month, I would go.
I would do it too. I'm just thinking, now that you mentioned this, I'm just thinking them of you know, amazing soundtrack, and I'm thinking about like them playing two different movies. The first one is Cinema Paradiso, and it's like the guys in the orchestra just thinking about, in the symphony, just thinking about like, I want to die if I have to play this fucking song again, for the fifth time.
This theme, it repeats like 700 times.
Yeah, imagine they had to do like just 2 showings of the movie, you know, like a day, and you had to play like for 2 weeks. It's like, it's that, you know. And the other one I was thinking is like a tournament. That'd be like pretty cool to just sing with the symphony, if they could just pull it out, you know, like with all the special effects and how it merges, like the music with the action.
That would be super challenging, but also Atonement is the first time where I noticed a score being elevated beyond just the background music and how it can play in with...
It's amazing. That soundtrack is incredible.
Didn't you have somebody recommend a Dario Marianelli film recently?
I don't remember.
I thought someone had told you, oh, you have to check out the score, it's Dario Marianelli.
Oh, maybe it was... No, Prado? Prejudice? No,
yes.
It was?
Yes, somebody played you a song and...
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah. So it was Marinelli. But Marinelli was also like the one from a tournament, no?
Yeah, and he won an Oscar for it, and damn well he should have.
Yeah, I mean, that's completely deserved. It's a pity you go against that. It's like, look, no. It's just no. Is that this, as I was telling to this person, is that, look, if it's a period piece, I haven't watched it, except if it's a tournament. But then I fucking love it. That's the only one that I feel is like this this is amazing. I wish that all like period pieces could be as enjoyable as this, instead of actually just like hitting like 3 pieces of cake. That is like, I want to throw up. Yeah. But yeah, going back to Metropolis, is that when you actually watch it, is that they're like, it's true that there is a lot to it, but at the same time, there is like a lot of topics that we, as you know, like as a society, we have been obsessed with. You know, is that it has AI, it has like a robotic life to it.
Yeah, the level of sophistication of the fake Maria, it's so advanced that it almost feels like it's out of place.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's like, it's one of the iconic things. When people think about Metropolis, they don't think about the kaleidoscope scene in the brothel, you know? They think about like the Robo Maria becoming Maria.
Yeah.
Well, the man machine becoming Robo Maria.
Yeah, and it was interesting to finally understand these iconic images that I may or may not have realized came from Metropolis, but like you'll see the cultural impact of this film,
yeah.
Whether or not you've seen it or understand it. It is endless how its influence is felt.
Yeah. Yeah, so Fritz Lang is a director that I wish that I had watched more of him. I may actually just come back. Probably not to the silent stuff, to the rest of the silent stuff that he did, but he has other popular stuff too, you know, on talkies, let's say. So.
And you know that they made an anime remake of this film?
I watched it. Yeah, it's what you expect.
Not great.
I mean, it's visually it's striking, you know, and it's a creative kind of reinterpretation of it. But I remember just thinking, okay, okay, Japan, thank you.
What a pity, because if it was good, I was going to suggest we watch it.
Oh no, we can watch it. I mean, maybe I don't remember it, you know, like fully, but I remember just watching it back then after watching the original Metropolis, and I felt like, is this the best?
Like they could have dedicated all of that energy somewhere else.
Maybe, but the thing is, it's an interesting exercise from the perspective of how you do, like, get up to nowadays version of this. You know, because I think that is a completely stuck on its time. It's like, okay, it's sci-fi, but it's sci-fi from the 20s. It's like, if we were to do this now, it's going to be different, you know? So it's like, do you need to make a remake of this? What can you do with that?
So they didn't change, like, they didn't shift anything to different sci-fi?
Yeah, they did.
They did
a bit. Yeah. I remember it's like, it's a kid instead of a woman, and I don't think that there was like so much about like the working class and the 1%. Yeah, I mean, I will be down to watch it again. I remember just finished like, visually this was great, but that's it.
Alright, well.
Yeah. So I
won't pick that for the next
one. No. I mean, if you want to pick it up for the next one, it's absolutely fine. And actually, it's that you're going to be surprising me because we didn't discuss before this what we're going to be watching next.
Yeah, and so I was actually here on my list, and I was like, let's watch L.
Okay.
Just kidding. No.
Okay.
No. I'm going to surprise you with my pick. This is on our list of things, but because I like this more than I thought I would, and you knew I would, I thought, let's watch more sci-fi.
Okay.
So you added AI to our list. I've never seen it.
Okay.
Your name is right next to it.
But
so...
you can pick it. It's fair game. Just go for it.
No, I'm into this like dystopian future AI sort of thing right now. So
yeah,
I'll watch it.
Yeah, that's cool. So, anything else about this movie? Because I got a feeling that even your husband watched this movie.
He had seen it before me. He is very much into visual aesthetics, and he absolutely loves the Art Deco style. He loves it.
Yeah.
So when I told him I was going to watch it, he was like, "Oh my god, visually it's incredible," and he was right. This is like everything he loves about architecture, and he's obsessed with the Bauhaus, and so like everything in this film is Bauhaus. So it was. Yeah. And he loves sci-fi probably even more than you do.
Yeah. No, that's completely fair. Yeah, I mean, I know that for him, is one of his favorite movies is Blade Runner. No,
I think that's definitely his favorite film.
Yeah, and I think this one actually just plays like pretty well with the aesthetics, as you said. You know, like just like making. I don't know. It's what I said that is like this a movie that if I were to watch it in the 20s, I would be like mind blown. It would change my life completely.
Visually, and the sets were so well thought out. Like, every scene, like, when you're in the inventor's house, there are shelves on his wall, but they're not, like, flat shelves. They're, like, completely curved and run along the side of a door. And I just thought everything you're seeing was carefully crafted. They've taken all of these inspirations, and it made me a little bit sad that we don't invest that much anymore into, like, set design, because it's incredible what they came up with.
Well, I mean, we do, but we made it by computer, you know. Is that just thinking about, like, all the craftsmanship that it went into it is incredible.
No, you're right. It's just, I feel like it's not on that scale, and I was thinking about why, and I feel like things used to be so much cheaper. So hand designing every set was doable in the 20s?
Yeah, I'm going to be saying something that I'm going to regret, but just think about Christopher Nolan. Is that he likes to go with big sets too. Big sets, like big picture kind of thing, you know, like in Inception, like how Paris, like, just calm for itself.
You're right, but those are special effects. It's not like when there's a quiet moment between two people discussing something in Inception. It's not that this vase was particularly crafted for this scene and they have these incredibly beautiful shelves in the back.
Oh, no.
Yes, visually he has incredible special effects. He knows what he wants to show.
One movie did we was, like, not too long ago that we said that it was impressive that everything that it was in their house, it was like just a depiction of who they were.
Are you sure this was with me?
I don't remember. Well, maybe it was like just me saying this and you saying is like you're wrong about women in the verse of our nervous breakdown, that I said that it's like the house is just crafted from the perspective that everything feels like just completing who they are. And it's like, I'm not saying that Fritz Lang is doing it to that level, because we don't see like so many houses. When we see like the main character's house is an apartment. And it's that there is nothing. And I will, like, just felt like, is this a house? When he goes to these gardens, you know, where they have like, I don't know, like bukakes probably like happening every night. And they have like even like a running track field, you know, that is like, and they have like a small apartment for living in there. That's weird, man.
I did feel like when they showed Federer's father's office, it has these big, huge, beautiful windows that are like 30 feet tall, but the view was like of a factory, and I was like, you're not thinking big enough, man. You gotta think like Golden Gate Bridge.
Exactly. Man, it's like you can choose anywhere, and you choose this. Honestly, is this the best that you can do?
But it did fit. It did fit.
Yeah. No, I mean, everything is absolutely fine. I don't feel like just, how do you say, like, that there is something that is like just glaring offense. Once again, is that this is the 20s. Is that they don't have like the same kind of lavish feeling that we have nowadays.
Yeah, I mean, it was right when Europe was really entering the age of industrialism.
Exactly.
Like, things were changing so fast, but they hadn't changed completely.
Yeah.
So should we get into the questions?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, Jose.
Oh, I have one last question before we go into the questions. How did you feel about all the resolution parts, you know, when they actually just... There is a point that they start realizing that they're like two Marias. And it's when the guy and the main guy start like just chasing them down, they get a split, you know, and at the end he actually, when he finds one Maria, is that they are burning her on the stake. Like if he was a witch, but they got the right one.
Well,
the Robo Maria.
Know. They didn't know. They could have fire and like, oh, that's a robot.
Exactly. And they just freak out. But it was a bit more of a, this is how probably would have happened in real life, you know. And I think that cinema, if there is like one of these, oh my god, there are like two people, who is the good guy? There will be like some kind of a scene that they are like just one of them like facing the other, and there was like confusion. And it's like, no, it's a mob. It's a mob. It's going to be like, this one looks like the guy that we want to just lynch to death.
I was thinking, to answer your question in a long way, like, sci-fi, at least futuristic sci-fi, used to be about, oh, what could be, what's, you know, what wonderful things will come, and then at some point it became like dystopian, right? Like at some point society became less optimistic about where we're going.
Yeah.
And so I thought, like, if someone were to remake Metropolis, they would burn the real Maria, and then it would be really sad, and then there would be 3 Matrix films after it.
Okay, that's hilarious. That was pretty good.
So, like, how did I feel? I felt unsatisfied with the resolution, but because it was so simplistic. I mean,
No,
there's
no,
just
that's
not enough
completely fair.
there. I did enjoy the scene where Freder runs down to the angry mob, and she's like, he's like, that's not Maria. She preaches peace, and this person is preaching death
War
and
and
violence.
destruction, yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah, that's okay. Well, it's not
I'll just say
completely wrong, but
1927, first of its kind.
Yeah.
It's great.
yeah, it's a proto-genre. Come
Yeah.
on, let's just go with that. Okay, should we go into those questions?
Yes. So, Jose, you've seen this film 5 times, so I know the answer. Would you watch this film again?
Yes, definitely yes, but also at the same time with a small caveat from the perspective that I feel like it's a bit of an exercise. You know, it's 2 hours and a half. It requires like just going with the dispositions. That can I sit down for 2 hours and a half and just watching something that is silent? I think that I would be interested in watching like some of the other versions. Now I'm curious about like the 80s one. I think that is going to be like fucking terrible. About like why did you have to color this? But I'll be curious.
So I will say yes, enthusiastically yes, and I'm surprised by this. I agree with you that it's work to watch it. It's a 2.5 hour silent film. But clearly there's a lot there. A lot of thought went into this film. It stood the test of time. I know that I didn't get everything out of it I could have the first time. So yeah, 100% yes. Would you recommend this?
Yes, I mean I recommended it to you like long time ago. I mean it has been like there in the list forever because I was surprised. I think that this is if someone tells you I like cinema, not about like I watch movies, is that I like cinema. Is oh, have you watched Metropolis? Is that one of those like top 30 movies that I would go with? Like you have to watch this.
I would say Magnolia, but
True. I mean Magnolia just above this, you know. 3 hours of Magnolia and then 2 hours and a half of this.
I would also recommend it. But let's be honest, the number of people we know that would be interested in this film, it's very, very low. That doesn't mean that it doesn't have value, but I don't know anybody in my life besides you and my brother-in-law that would be like, oh yeah, I'll watch Metropolis.
Edwin did watch Metropolis.
And did he like it?
Yeah, he was like just surprised when I told him like never watched it and he likes cinema.
Edwin was our guest host from October 4th,
And for
2020, when we watched Jurassic Park.
Well, but we review Enemy. That is a sci-fi is kind of movie.
Yeah, it's sci-fi-ish.
Yeah.
I'll accept that.
Yeah.
Would you remember it?
Yes. I mean, I have forgotten like some pieces of it. I have forgotten like the Babel part, and it's like visually it's striking. Like what they do there. I love when they use the intertitles in different ways and they go crazy with it. That is like that's amazing. I really hope that the original version was doing like something like this, that it didn't came like creative, that it didn't turn like creative on the 2010, you know, like revival.
Well, I did read this is supposed to be as close to the original form
Okay,
as
cool.
possible.
Yeah.
So I will remember this, but it's interesting that not a lot happens in the plot. I mean, a lot happens, but it's like very like these big blocks of things. But there's so much detail in such little story that I'm gonna remember. I would say what 40% of this, 50% of this, but I'll remember the big pieces of what makes this film. Is there anything artistic about this?
Oh yeah. The cinematography is incredible. The makeup is terrible. That's true. The acting is like silent film acting that is pretty on the nose,
over the top, and ridiculous.
Yeah, but in any case, it's like all the set design. Just thinking that they had to do this manually. That there was no any kind of help. There was not anything like this before. Is that this a milestone in cinema for me?
So I feel like this question is actually kind of ridiculous to ask about a lot of the films we watch, but with this film, my answer is yes, and I would say more so than almost anything else we've seen.
Yeah.
The artistic vision and expression is so fantastic that I'm still shocked about it.
Well, that's good. Glad to hear, man.
Yeah. Is it a timeless piece?
Yes, it's a timeless piece because I think of how iconic it is. But it's like as you say, is that some of the topics that they describe, they are like pretty stuck on the reality of that time. You know, as you were talking about like Euro like being industrialized at that point, and it's like, what is going to happen? Is that we're moving to capitalism? Are we moving to socialists, and Europe actually ended up in a middle ground to have like many socialist measures, but it's capitalist.
Interesting. I think the fact that this is a quote-unquote science fiction film kind of like allows it this liberty to be like, well, if this were a straightforward film, you would say this is a product of the 20s, but because this is like ultimately about like tyranny and oppression, and it was in this weird sci-fi universe, that it's timeless. Like, I'm guessing that somebody who watched this in movie theaters in 1927 got a very similar understanding that I did today in 2021.
Yeah, no, that's true. Can you actually check what did we say for this question for Bacurau?
Is it a timeless? You said no, I said no.
It's interesting because it's also a sci-fi.
Yeah, that's true. Well, like comparing Bacurau Metropolis is like...
I know. Yeah, it's like comparing like Showgirls and I don't know.
No, but I see it's also about tyranny and oppression and politics.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if I can explain exactly why, but Metropolis transcends in a way Bacurau just can't.
Yeah.
It makes it timeless, and it's more about humanity rather than...
Yeah.
Oh, is this about Germany in the 1920s? No, it's not. It's about...
Yeah, that's true. Is that they never actually just mention Germany or anything. It's that Metropolis like an imaginary city somewhere.
Would you turn this into a TV show?
No, I don't. No, I don't know. I mean, no, just no, just no. I was trying to think about like how would it be, Not about, because it wouldn't be actually about like this, the heart, the hands, and the mediator. I have to say that I found the hands representative cute. Of course I did. But I just felt like, what else can you do with this? Is it just depicting more? Let me ask you something. Would you turn Bioshock into a TV show?
I don't think I would, and I say that because I enjoyed the gameplay more than the exposition.
Oh, gotcha.
There's an interesting story, not enough to make me watch 12 hours, 18 hours of television.
Right.
I just want to get cool powers and blow bad people up.
Yeah, I mean, for me it was a bit more about like the world building and the reality that they were depicting. Is that the powers and blowing people up? I was like, sure, yeah. I mean, I would do this just for getting like the next snippet of a story or world building. So with Bioshock, I think that I would turn it into a standalone like TV show, like limited series that is, every episode is like one character.
Like 8 episodes?
8 episodes.
No more?
Exactly. And like the last one is just Jack Ryan or whatever, and it's like a bit more of a, and this is how everything went to shit, or Fontaine, That is, okay, this is how everything went to shit, and then you have like some kind of connecting facts that they happen on each one of the stories, and you have like different realities. With Metropolis, I think that they could do something similar to that. A bit more about like you have like a random worker, you have like one of the girls of the Gardens of Pleasure, that depicting like different factions, different things that they actually this series built upon.
But if you take this film for what it is, and it's a silent film from the 20s, it gets its impact from its visual storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
If you're trying to take that into hey, let's do a deep dive into each one of these characters, I think it would fail. I think this film has its power because it's a silent 2.5-hour film. It shouldn't even be 2.5 hours.
Well, sure. Yeah, from that perspective, I agree with you that is no. If it was going to be like making a TV show out of this in the 50s when TV started, it's like, yes, please don't do this. Don't do it. And even nowadays, it's like I wouldn't trust them to do it.
So your answer is no.
Okay, my answer is no.
No, I was asking. I wasn't telling you.
No. I'm saying I'm saying that it's like after thinking about it, it's like I don't think that they could be capable of making this in an interesting way.
Okay. Last question before we score. Could this film have been better?
As I said, this is one of those movies that I don't think that it should be remade. It's so iconic that it's like whatever you're going to be like changing is going to be like watering down the value of what we have here. So from that perspective, it's like it could have been better. It could have been shorter, but it's it's such a masterpiece in itself. It's such a product, let's say, that is like I don't want to touch anything. I just want to just remind this in the same way that someone in the 20s watching this and just feeling like, what did I just watch?
This question I struggle with sometimes because it's like, oh, we could fix the Kubrick film, right? Like, it seems like such hubris for me to be like, I could improve this film that's lasted 100 years. If you're just asking me candidly, yeah, I think some of the fat could have been trimmed. Would I choose to change it? No, I would choose to keep it exactly the same.
Yeah.
So my answer is no. Yours is
no.
Okay.
No, I mean, but the thing is, like, it's hard to answer this one because, like, but nowadays standards, yeah, you could make like better special effects. You could make like changing some other fights in the movie, but it's like, I don't know, because that would be like just changing what the original experience was. And it's what I told you today when you asked me, are we watching the 90 minutes or the 2 hours and a half? It's like we're watching the thing that is closer to the original experience.
I also got super panicked that I was like an hour and a half into the 2.5 hours, and I thought you might have done the 90 minutes, and I was like, son of a bitch. No. But we watched the same. Watched the same. So there's, if there's anything else you want to say before we score it, now is your chance.
No, I mean, I recommend everyone to watch this. It's like if you actually listen to us, I mean, if you're like one of those 5 people that maybe have listened to most of our podcast, is that I think that this actually encapsulates, I'm going to say something that you're going to want to punch me in the face, but I think that this encapsulates what cinema is. What actually just is about like letting your imagination fly.
I don't disagree with that at all. I see this, like, I would have been so excited to see this in movie theaters.
Yep.
I would have thought, holy fuck, I'm going to watch this again tomorrow.
Yep.
It's like, I hope this isn't insulting to Metropolis, but it's like when I went and saw The Fall, and I knew nothing about it, and I was just like completely blown away by the imagination and the wonder. That's how I felt about this film.
Yeah. So it's just watch it. Either you haven't and you're listening to this, is that just watch it. Just make yourself.
Even if you don't like sci-fi, even if you don't like silent films, like, this is an experience. Maybe you won't like it, but you won't be sorry that you watched it. In my opinion.
Yeah, definitely.
So now it's time to score it. This was your pick.
So you score first.
So, honestly, my score went up and down this entire conversation.
Mine too.
I'm really, really happy that you continue to ask me to get out of my comfort zone and film and see other things. And I do have a complaint about the lack of complexity of the plot, but overall, I can see why this is important. It's a fantastic film. I'm giving it an 8.5.
And I honestly, until like 5 minutes ago, that was going to be my score. My score is going to be a 9. My score is going to be a 9 because of the perspective of how influential this was. It's like, it's not only about like, oh, we are like just being snobs talking about like a hidden gem or whatever. It's like, no, this defines sci-fi. This defines like almost what, like 90 years ago? 83 years ago, those are like 2 giant gooses like flying over.
No, 92 years ago.
92 years ago, it's like, and it defines sci-fi, like just define the genre as a whole. And there is like a lot of experimentation done here that is still pretty edgy by nowadays standards.
It is 100%, and I was blown away. I've said this already on this recording, but now to have seen the film and to see the influences, the influence is almost, I would argue, as expansive as Star Wars. Like, it's just, I would say, the quintessential sci-fi film.
Yeah. And from that perspective, I just think that this is what I think that a film that is on a 9 is. It's about like your appeal lasted significantly longer. Your appeal lasted to the point that I can watch it now as a gay person in San Francisco in 2021. And it's like, and this
still feels relevant.
Yeah, it still feels like engaging. It still feels like, it feels dumb in some parts. It feels like just overacted. It feels like, but I can overlook all of that. It's like, it actually works, because at the end, it's like the score that we're giving is not like, okay, it's like you're like grading a paper or something like that. It's like, it's not, because cinema is like completely subjective. And I think that is like, sometimes there are like good movies that I think that Bacurau, for example, it was not a bad movie, but it didn't land. It didn't like just resonate with me. It's like, for me, this movie, every single time that I see it, it's like, it resonates with me. Now, I have to say something too. It's like, every single time that I watch it, is that there is a point that I feel like I'm going to fall asleep. Because it's silent films. So it requires an effort, but at the same time, it's like, I think that is an effort that pays off.
And I love a film where I put in a lot of work and it's awful until the last 5 minutes. That's not this film.
No, it's not.
It is work, and that's partly because we live in the Christopher Nolan era where we're told how we should feel, we're given everything, it's very entertaining. But this film is definitely worth watching.
Yeah, definitely. So, what are we watching next?
I ruined the surprise,
So
but
it's going to be
AI.
Okay.
It's a film I haven't seen, Jose has seen, and it's a film you like. You put it on our list.
I put it on my list, but it's a weird film. Let's just go with that.
After Metropolis, I'm ready for a weird sci-fi film.
Well, not weird from that perspective. It's a weird film because it was like just designed by Kubrick and it started to be like just, not almost like just pre-production, but a bit more like, okay, I'm going to start like thinking about all the stuff that I want to do. And then after he died, like Steven Spielberg came around and says like, I will do that film. So you can see some weird stuff, but you can also see like the family type of style that Spielberg does, just stamping on top of it, that at the end ends up with a mixture of both worlds that is like, this is weird.
So, what is the other film you can think of that's the similar style, the similar situation? You don't have to answer. It's Tom Tykwer directing Heaven.
Oh my god,
that should have been directed by Krzysztof Kieslowski. I fucking love Heaven. It's a disaster of a film, and I love it. So
you like it like significantly more than I did. Like for me, it's like I stuck with the disaster part. It was a bit more like if this was going to be good, it didn't work out.
I just will watch Kate Blanchett shave her head any day of the week. To Spiegel im Spiegel.
That's true. Okay, that's fair. So I think that it's going to be an interesting viewing.
It will be.
Anything else to say about Metropolis?
No, just thanks again for pushing me outside of my comfort zone, out of the misery of the upper middle class. So.
Okay, and to all those 5 people, if you haven't watched Metropolis, just go and watch it.
Wash your hands, unless you're vaccinated.
Well, I mean, they should still keep washing their hands, especially after going to the restroom for number 2. But
okay, that's fair.
Wash your hands then, just without asterisk or without caveats. And thank you so much for listening. Bye.